Thirukkural. English translation and commentary.
By Reverend Dr. G. U. Pope, Reverend W. H. Drew, Reverend John Lazarus and Mr. F. W. Ellis.
Thirukkural was written by Thiruvalluvar, who lived around 3rd century of B.C. Thiru means holy or respectful. Kural means it's one of the Tamil grammar. If a poem is written by 2 lines and first line should have 4 words and second line should have 3 words, then it is called Kural. Thirukkural has 133 chapters and 1330 poems in all, are divided into 3 parts. 1. Virtue, 38 chapters. 2. Wealth, 70 chapters. 3. Love, 25 chapters. In this video we can see the first part. Translation, white color. Commentary, yellow color.
Part 1, Virtue. 1.1 Introduction. 1.1.1 The Praise of God. 1a. As its first of letters, every speech maintains the primal deity is first through all the world's domains. As the letter A is the first of all letters, so the eternal God is first in the world. 2. No fruit have men of all their studied law, save they the purely wise one's feet adore. What profit have those derived from learning, who worship not the good feet of him who is possessed of pure knowledge? 3. His feet, who o'er the full-blown flower hath passed, who gain in bliss long time shall dwell above this earthly plane. They who are united to the glorious feet of him who passes swiftly over the flower of the mind, shall flourish long above all worlds. 4. His foot, whom want affects not, irks not grief, who gain shall not, through every time, of any woes complain. To those who meditate the feet of him who is void of desire or aversion, evil shall never come. 5. The men, who on the King's true praise delight to dwell, affects not them the fruit of deeds done ill or well. The twofold deeds that spring from darkness shall not adhere to those who delight in the true praise of God. 6. Long live they blessed, who've stood in path from falsehood freed, his, who quenched lusts that from the sense gates 5 proceed. Those shall long propose who abide in the faultless way of him who has destroyed the 5 desires of the senses. 7. Unless his foot, to whom none can compare, men gain, 'tis hard for mind to find relief from anxious pain. Anxiety of mind cannot be removed, except from those who are united to the feet of him who is incomparable. 8. Unless his feet the sea of good, the fair and bountiful, men gain, 'tis hard the further bank of being's changeful sea to attain. None can swim the sea of vice, but those who are united to the feet of that gracious being who is a sea of virtue. 9. Before his foot, the eightfold excellence, with unbent head, who stands, like palsied sense, is to all living functions dead. The head that worships not the feet of him who is possessed of 8 attributes, is as useless as a sense without the power of sensation. 10. They swim the sea of births, the monarch's foot who gain, none others reach the shore of being's mighty main. None can swim the great sea of births but those who are united to the feet of God. 1.1.2 The excellence of rain. 11. The world its course maintains through life that rain unfailing gives. Thus rain is known the true ambrosial food of all that lives. By the continuance of rain, the world is preserved in existence. It is therefore worthy to be called ambrosia. 12. The rain makes pleasant food for eaters rise, as food itself, thirst-quenching draught supplies. Rain produces good food, and is itself food. 13. If clouds, that promised rain, deceive, and in the sky remain, famine, sore torment, stalks o'er earth's vast ocean-girdled plain. If the cloud, withholding rain, deceive our hopes, hunger will long distress the sea-girt spacious world. 14. If clouds their wealth of waters fail on earth to pour, the plowers plow with oxen's sturdy team no more. If the abundance of wealth imparting rain diminish, the labor of the plow must cease. 15. 'Tis rain works all, it ruin spreads, then timely aid supplies, as, in the happy days before, it bids the ruined rise. Rain by its absence ruins men, and by its existence restores them to fortune. 16. If from the clouds no drops of rain are shed, 'tis rare to see green herb lift up its head. If no drop falls from the clouds, not even the green blade of grass will be seen. 17. If clouds restrain their gifts and grant no rain, the treasures fail in ocean's wide domain. Even the wealth of the wide sea will be diminished, if the cloud that has drawn its waters up gives them not back again in rain. 18. If heaven grow dry, with feast and offering nevermore, will men on earth the heavenly ones adore. If the heaven dry up, neither yearly festivals, nor daily worship will be offered in this world. to the celestials. 19. If heaven its watery treasures ceases to dispense, through the wide world sees gifts, and deeds of penitence. If rain fall not, penance and alms deeds will not dwell within this spacious world. 20. When water fails, functions of nature cease, you say. Thus when rain fails, no man can walk in duty's ordered way. If it be said that the duties of life cannot be discharged by any person without water, so without rain there cannot be the flowing of water. 1.1.3 The greatness of ascetics. 21. The settled rule of every code requires, as highest good, their greatness who, renouncing all, true to their rule have stood. The end and aim of all treatise is to extol beyond all other excellence, the greatness of those who, while abiding in the rule of conduct peculiar to their state, have abandoned all desire. 22. As counting those that from the earth have passed away, 'tis vain attempt the might of holy men to say. To describe the measure of the greatness of those who have forsaken the twofold desires, is like counting the dead. 23. Their greatness earth transcends, who, way of both worlds wade, in this world take their stand, in virtue's robe arrayed. The greatness of those who have discovered the properties of both states of being, and renounced the world, shines forth on earth, beyond all others. 24. He, who with firmness, curbed the 5 restraints, is seed for soil of yonder happy plains. He who guides his 5 senses by the hook of wisdom will be a seed in the world of heaven. 25. Their might who have destroyed the 5, shall soothly tell Indra, the lord of those in heaven's wide realms that dwell. Indra, the king of the inhabitants of the spacious heaven, is himself a sufficient proof of the strength of him who has subdued his 5 senses. 26. Things hard in the doing will great men do. Things hard in the doing the mean eschew. The great will do those things which is difficult to be done, but the mean cannot do them. 27. Taste, light, touch, sound, and smell, who knows the way of all the 5, the world submissive owns his sway. The world is within the knowledge of him who knows the properties of taste, sight, touch, hearing and smell. 28. The might of men whose word is never vain, the secret word shall to the earth proclaim. The hidden words of the men whose words are full of effect, will show their greatness to the world. 29. The wrath 'tis hard e'en for an instant to endure, of those who virtue's hill have scaled, and stand secure. The anger of those who have ascended the mountain of goodness, though it continue but for a moment, cannot be resisted. 30. Towards all that breathe, with seemly graciousness adorned they live, and thus to virtue's sons the name of Anthena men give. The virtuous are truly called Anthena, because in their conduct towards all creatures they are clothed in kindness. 1.1.4 Assertion of the strength of virtue. 31. It yields distinction, yields prosperity. What gain greater than virtue can a living man obtain? Virtue will confer heaven and wealth. What greater source of happiness can man possess? 32. No greater gain than virtue aught can cause, no greater loss than life oblivious of her laws. There can be no greater source of good than the practice of virtue. There can be no greater source of evil than the forgetfulness of it. 33. To finish virtue's work with ceaseless effort strive. What way thou mayst treat, where'er thou seest the work may thrive. As much as possible, in every way, incessantly practice virtue. 34. Spotless be thou in mind. This only merits virtue's name, all else, mere pomp of idle sound, no real worth can claim. Let him who does virtuous deeds be of spotless mind, to that extent is virtue, all else is vain show. 35. 'Tis virtue when, his footsteps sliding not through envy, wrath, lust, evil speech these 4, man onwards moves in ordered path. That conduct is virtue which is free from these 4 things, viz., malice, desire, anger and bitter speech. 36. Do deeds of virtue now. Say not, tomorrow we'll be wise. Thus, when thou dost, shalt thou find a help that never dies. Defer not virtue to another day, receive her now, and at the dying hour she will be your undying friend. 37. Needs not in words to dwell on virtue's fruits. Compare the man in litter born with them that toiling bear. The fruit of virtue need not be described in books. It may be inferred from seeing the bearer of a palanquin and the rider therein. 38. If no day passing idly, good to do each day you toil, a stone it will be to block the way of future days of oil. If one allows no day to pass without some good being done, his conduct will be a stone to block up the passage to other births. 39. What from virtue floweth, yieldeth dear delight, all else extern, is void of glory's light. Only that pleasure which flows from domestic virtue is pleasure, all else is not pleasure, and it is without praise. 40. Virtue sums the things that should be done, vice sums the things that man should shun. That is virtue which each ought to do, and that is vice which each should shun. 1.2 Domestic Virtue 1.2.1 Domestic Life 41. The men of household virtue, firm in way of good, sustain the other orders three that rule professed maintain. He will be called a true householder, who is a firm support to the virtuous of the three orders in their good path. 42. To anchorites, to indigent, to those who've passed away, the man for household virtue famed is needful held and stay. He will be said to flourish in domestic virtue who aids the forsaken, the poor, and the dead. 43. The means, God, guests, kindred, self, in due degree. These five to cherish well is chiefest charity. The chief duty of the householder is to preserve the fivefold rule of conduct towards the meanies, the gods, his guests, his relations and himself. 44. Who shares his meal with other, while all guilt he shuns, his virtuous line unbroken though the ages runs. His descendants shall never fail who, living in the domestic state, fears vice, in the acquisition of property, and shares his food, with others. 45. If love and virtue in the household reign, this is of life the perfect grace and gain. If the married life possess love and virtue, these will be both its duty and reward. 46. If man in active household life a virtuous soul retain, what fruit from other modes of virtue can he gain? What will he who lives virtuously in the domestic state gain by going into the other, ascetic, state? 47. In nature's way who spends his calm domestic days, mid all that strive for virtue's crown hath foremost place. Among all those who labor for future happiness, he is greatest who lives well in the household state. 48. Others it sets upon their way, itself from virtue ne'er declines, then stern ascetic Spain's such life domestic brighter shines. The householder who, not swerving from virtue, helps the ascetic in his way, endures more than those who endure penance. 49. The life domestic rightly bears true virtue's name, that other too, if blameless found, due praise may claim. The marriage state is truly called virtue. The other state is also good, if others do not reproach it. 50. Who shares domestic life, by household virtues graced, shall, mid the gods, in heaven who dwell, be placed. He who on earth has lived in the conjugal state as he should live, will be placed among the gods who dwell in heaven. 1.2.2 The goodness of the help to domestic life. 51. As doth the house beseem, she shows her wifely dignity, as doth her husband's wealth befit, she spends, help, meet is she who has the excellence of home virtues, and can expend within the means of her husband, is a help in the domestic state. 52. If household excellence be wanting in the wife, however with splendor lived, all worthless is the life. If the wife be devoid of domestic excellence, whatever other greatness be possessed, the conjugal state is nothing. 53. There is no lack within the house, where wife in worth excels, there is no luck within the house, where wife dishonored dwells. If his wife be eminent in virtue, what does that man not possess? If she be without excellence, what does he possess? 54. If woman might of chastity retain, what choicer treasure doth the world contain? What is more excellent than a wife, if she possess the stability of chastity? 55. No god adoring, lo she bends before her lord, then rising, serves, the rain falls instant at her word. If she, who does not worship God, but who rising worships her husband, say, let it rain, it will rain. 56. Who guards herself, for husband's comfort cares, her household's fame, in perfect wise with sleepless soul preserves, give her a woman's name. She is a wife who unweariedly guards herself, takes care of her husband, and preserves an unsullied fame. 57. Of what avail is watch and ward? Honors woman's safest guard. What avails the guard of a prison? The chief guard of a woman is her chastity. 58. If wife be wholly true to him who gained her as his bride, great glory gains she in the world where God's bliss abide. If women show reverence to their husbands, they will obtain great excellence in the world where the gods flourish. 59. Who have not spouses that in virtue's praise delight, they lion-like can never walk in scorner's sight. The man whose wife seeks not the praise of chastity, cannot walk with lion-like stately step, before those who revile them. 60. The house's blessing. Men pronounce the housewife excellent. The gain of blessed children is its goodly ornament. The excellence of a wife is the good of her husband, and good children are the jewels of that goodness. 1.2.3 The obtaining of sons. 61. Of all that men acquire, we know not any greater gain than that which by the birth of learned children men obtain. Among all the benefits that may be acquired, we know no greater benefit than the acquisition of intelligent children. 62. Who children gain, that none reproach, of virtuous worth, no evils touch them. Through the sevenfold maze of birth, the evils of the 7 births shall not touch those who obtain children of a good disposition, free from vice. 63. Man's children are his fortune, say the wise. From each one's deeds his varied fortunes rise. Men will call their sons their wealth, because it flows to them through the deeds which they, sons, perform on their behalf. 64. Then God's ambrosia sweeter far the food before men laid, in which the little hands of children of their own have played. The rice in which the little hand of their children has dabbled will be far sweeter, to the parent, than ambrosia. 65. To patent sweet the touch of children dear, their voice is sweetest music to his ear. The touch of children gives pleasure to the body, and the hearing of their words, pleasure to the ear. 66. The pipe is sweet, the lute is sweet, by them 'twill be averred, who music of their infants' lisping lips have never heard. The pipe is sweet, the lute is sweet, say those who have not heard the prattle of their own children. 67. Sire greatest boon on son confers, who makes him meet, in councils of the wise to fill the highest seat. The benefit which a father should confer on his son is to give him precedence in the assembly of the learned. 68. Their children's wisdom greater than their own confessed, through the wide world is sweet to every human breast. That their children should possess knowledge is more pleasing to all men of this great earth than to themselves. 69. When mother hears him named fulfilled of wisdom's lore, far greater joy she feels, than when her son she bore. The mother who hears her son called a wise man will rejoice more than she did at his birth. 70. To sire, what best requital can by grateful child be done, to make men say, what merit gained the father such a son? So to act, that it may be said by what great penance did his father beget him, is the benefit which a son should render to his father. 1.2.4 The possession of love. 71. And is there bar that can even love restrain? The tiny tear shall make the lover's secret plain. Is there any fastening that can shut in love? Tears of the affectionate will publish the love that is within. 72. The loveless to themselves belong alone. The loving men are others to the very bone. Those who are destitute of love appropriate all they have to themselves, but those who possess love consider even their bones to belong to others. 73. Of precious soul with body's flesh and bone, the union yields one fruit, the life of love alone. They say that the union of soul and body in man is the fruit of the union of love and virtue, in a former birth. 74. From love fond yearning springs for union sweet of minds, and that the bond of rare excelling friendship binds. Love begets desire, and that desire begets the immeasurable excellence of friendship. 75. Sweetness on earth and rarest bliss above, these are the fruits of tranquil life of love. They say that the felicity which those who, after enjoying the pleasure of the conjugal state, in this world, obtain in heaven is the result of their domestic state imbued with love. 76. The unwise deem love virtue only can sustain. It also helps the man who evil would restrain. The ignorant say that love is an ally to virtue only, but it is also a help to get out of vice. 77. As sun's fierce ray dries up the boneless things, so loveless beings virtue's power to nothing brings. Virtue will burn up the soul which is without love, even as the sun burns up the creature which is without bone, i.e., worms. 78. The loveless soul, the very joys of life may know, when flowers, in barren soil, on sapless trees, shall blow. The domestic state of that man whose mind is without love is like the flourishing of a withered tree upon the parched desert. 79. Though every outward part complete, the body is fitly framed, what good, when soul within, of love devoid, lies halt and maimed? Of what avail are all the external members of the body, to those who are destitute of love, the internal member? 80. Bodies of loveless men are bony framework clad with skin, then is the body seat of life, when love resides within. That body alone which is inspired with love contains a living soul. If void of it, the body, is bone overlaid with skin. 1.2.5 Cherishing guests. 81. All household cares and course of daily life have this in view. Guests to receive with courtesy, and kindly acts to do. The whole design of living in the domestic state and laying up property is to be able to exercise the benevolence of hospitality. 82. Though food of immortality should crown the board, feasting alone, the guests without unfed, is thing abhorred. It is not fit that one should wish his guests to be outside his house, even though he were eating the food of immortality. 83. Each day he tends the coming guest with kindly care, painless, unfailing plenty shall his household share. The domestic life of the man that daily entertains the guests who come to him shall not be laid waste by poverty. 84. With smiling face he entertains each virtuous guest, fortune with gladsome mind shall in his dwelling rest. Lakshmi with joyous mind shall dwell in the house of that man who, with cheerful countenance, entertains the good as guests. 85. Who first regales his guest, and then himself supplies, or all his fields, unsown, shall plenteous harvests rise. Is it necessary to sow the field of the man who, having feasted his guests, eats what may remain? 86. The guest arrived he tends, the coming guest expects to see. To those in heavenly homes that dwell a welcome guest is he. He who, having entertained the guests that have come, looks out for others who may yet come, will be a welcome guest to the inhabitants of heaven. 87. To reckon up the fruit of kindly deeds were all in vain. Their worth is as the worth of guests you entertain. The advantages of benevolence cannot be measured. The measure of the virtue of the guests entertained is the only measure. 88. With pain they guard their stores, yet all forlorn are we, they'll cry, who cherish not their guests, nor kindly help supply. Those who have taken no part in the benevolence of hospitality shall, at length lament, saying, we have labored and laid up wealth and are now without support. 89. To turn from guests is penury, though worldly goods abound. 'Tis senseless folly, only with the senseless found. That stupidity which exercises no hospitality is poverty in the midst of wealth. It is the property of the stupid. 90. The flower of Anuja withers away, if you do but its fragrance inhale. If the face of the host cold welcome convey, the guest's heart within him will fail. As the anajam flower fades in smelling, so fades the guest when the face is turned away. 1.2.6 The utterance of pleasant words. 91. Pleasant words are words with all-pervading love that burn, words from his guileless mouth who can the very truth discern. Sweet words are those which imbued with love and free from deceit flow from the mouth of the virtuous. 92. A pleasant word with beaming smiles preferred, even to gifts with liberal heart conferred. Sweet speech with a cheerful countenance is better than a gift made with a joyous mind. 93. With brightly beaming smile, and kindly light of loving eye, and heart sincere, to utter pleasant words is charity. Sweet speech, flowing from the heart, uttered, with a cheerful countenance and a sweet look, is true virtue. 94. The men of pleasant speech that gladness breathe around, through indigence shall never sorrow's prey be found. Sorrow increasing poverty shall not come upon those who use towards all, pleasure increasing sweetness of speech. 95. Humility with pleasant speech to man on earth, is choicer adornment, all besides is nothing worth. Humility and sweetness of speech are the ornaments of man, all others are not ornaments. 96. Who seeks out good words from his lips of sweetness flow, in him the power of vice declines, and virtues grow. If a man, while seeking to speak usefully, speaks also sweetly, his sins will diminish and his virtue increase. 97. The words of sterling sense, to rule of right that strict adhere, to virtuous action prompting, blessings yield in every sphere. That speech which, while imparting benefits ceases not to please, will yield righteousness, for this world, and merit, for the next world. 98. Sweet kindly words, from meanness free, delight of heart, in world to come and in this world impart. Sweet speech, free from harm to others, will give pleasure both in this world and in the next. 99. Who sees the pleasure kindly speech affords, why makes he use of harsh, repellent words? Why does he use harsh words, who sees the pleasure which sweet speech yields? 100. When pleasant words are easy, bitter words to use, is leaving sweet ripe fruit, the sour unripe to choose. To say disagreeable things when agreeable are at hand is like eating unripe fruit when there is ripe. 1.2.7 The knowledge of benefits conferred. Gratitude. 101 Assistance given by those who ne'er received our aid is debt by gift of heaven and earth but poorly paid. The gift of heaven and earth is not an equivalent for a benefit which is conferred where none had been received. 102 A timely benefit, though thing of little worth, the gift itself, in excellence transcends the earth. A favor conferred in the time of need, though it be small, in itself, is, in value, much larger than the world. 103 Kindness shown by those who weigh not what the return may be, when you ponder right its merit, 'tis vaster than the sea. If we weigh the excellence of a benefit which is conferred without weighing the return, it is larger than the sea. 104 Each benefit to those of action's fruit who rightly deem, though small as millet seed, as palm tree vast will seem. Though the benefit conferred be as small as a millet seed, those who know its advantage will consider it as large as a palmyra fruit. 105 The kindly aid's extent is of its worth no measure true. Its worth is as the worth of him to whom the act you do. The benefit itself is not the measure of the benefit, the worth of those who have received it is its measure. 106 Kindness of men of stainless soul remember evermore. Forsake thou never friends who were thy stay in sorrow sore. Forsake not the friendship of those who have been your staff in adversity. Forget not be benevolence of the blameless. 107 Through all 7 worlds, in 7-fold birth, remains in memory of the wise, friendship of those who wiped on earth the tears of sorrow from their eyes. The wise will remember throughout their 7-fold births the love of those who have wiped away their affliction. 108 'Tis never good to let the thought of good things done thee pass away, of things not good, 'tis good to rid thy memory that very day. It is not good to forget a benefit, it is good to forget an injury even in the very moment in which it is inflicted. 109 Effaced straightway is deadliest injury, by thought of one kind act in days gone by. Though one inflict an injury great as murder, it will perish before the thought of one benefit, formerly conferred. 110 Who every good have killed, may yet destruction flee, who benefit has killed, that man shall ne'er escape free. He who has killed every virtue may yet escape. There is no escape for him who has killed a benefit. 1.2.8 Impartiality. 111 If justice, failing not, its quality maintain, giving to each his due, 'tis man's one highest gain. That equity which consists in acting with equal regard to each of the 3 divisions of men, enemies, strangers and friends, is a preeminent virtue. 112 The just man's wealth unwasting shall endure, and to his race a lasting joy ensure. The wealth of the man of rectitude will not perish, but will bring happiness also to his posterity. 113 Though only good it seem to give, yet gain, by wrong acquired, not e'en one day retain. Forsake in the very moment of acquisition, that gain which, though it should bring advantage, is without equity. 114 Who just or unjust lived shall soon appear, by each one's offspring shall the truth be clear. The worthy and unworthy may be known by the existence or otherwise of good offsprings. 115 The gain and loss in life are not mere accident. Just mind inflexible is sage's ornament. Loss and gain come not without cause. It is the ornament of the wise to preserve evenness of mind under both. 116 If, right deserting, hard to evil turn, let man impending ruin's sign discern. Let him whose mind departing from equity commits sin well consider thus within himself, I shall perish. 117 The man who justly lives, tenacious of the right, in low estate is never low to wise man's sight. The great will not regard as poverty the low estate of that man who dwells in the virtue of equity. 118 To stand, like balanced rod that level hangs and rightly weighs, with calm unbiased equity of soul, is sage's praise. To incline to neither side, but to rest impartial as the even fixed scale is the ornament of the wise. 119 Inflexibility in word is righteousness. If men inflexibility of soul possess, freedom from obliquity of speech is rectitude. If there be, corresponding, freedom from bias of mind. 120 As thriving trader is the trader known, who guards another's interests as his own. The true merchandise of merchants is to guard and do by the things of others as they do by their own. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe for more. Have a great day.